Ever since I joined YFL last year, I've been actively attending activities such as the Olympics, LBS, unit assemblies, and much more. And during those YFL events, I admit that I can be very loud and energetic. However, it's not always the same as who I am inside. But I'm really different from who I appear to be in front of the other brothers and sisters in the community. I tend to be more impatient and competitive. I'm not as open as I am, even to my friends and family. I would never tell anyone in YFL about my school or family related problems because of the fear that they would judge me. And sometimes it makes me wonder why I'm still part of YFL if I'm not as honest as I should be and if I don't show them who I really am. I often keep the struggles I'm facing to myself to a point where I just want to blow up.
Being born into and growing up in the community, I always felt some sort of pressure to live up to people's expectations. Our parents would share with us how other families in the community occasionally told them that they looked up to our family or that we siblings were role models in YFL. From witnessing my three older siblings become servants to watching them serve with excellence, somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew that I'd have to follow that someday. A few years back, Kuya Akis, our Chapter 7 then, talked to me about becoming a servant. But because of my fear of failure, my fear to step out of my comfort zone, or to not live up to expectations, I rejected the call to service more than once. Not that I didn't want to become a servant, but because of my pride, I'd rather not try than have tried and failed. But after high school, I was called to serve once again, to take up Ate Icy's household, which was also the household I was in. And finally, I said yes. Honestly, this wasn't my ideal household. Not because I didn't like my household members, but because I knew that this was a challenge I wasn't confident enough to face. I was hoping to start with a household I considered easy, consisting of members who were around 12 to 13 years old. But the household I was holding were all older than me by a year. Everyone had completely different backgrounds, and none of them grew up in the community like most of the members in YFL that time. And to add on to that, I was also called to be a lit ministry servant for a ministry that I wasn't too involved in before. From being the youngest in the household to becoming their servant, plus handling a new lit ministry role, I easily struggled with and stressed over the difficulties I began to face. I started to feel discouraged mainly because things barely went the way I had planned or wanted. Because of our busy schedules, I got frustrated over how impossible it was to gather for our household. Because my role in Lit involved coordinating with three other ministry servants, I got annoyed when I didn't get the response I wanted, or even one at all. During my first few months serving in those roles, I was so focused on the things that I felt were limitations and the technicality of it all that, as cliche as it sounds, I found myself simply trying to complete tasks with no purpose or meaning.
I joined YFL back in 2008 when I was only 12 years old, and I was excited to move because a bunch of my friends were joining that year. We were all really young when we joined, and we caused a lot of trouble in our activities, talking back to the speakers, not singing along during praise and worship, playing around during sessions, the list goes on. And since our ministry wasn't as big back then, and because a few of our ates and kuyas didn't have that much time to serve in YFL, a lot of us in our batch were called to start serving at a young age. I remember being called to lead worship for the first time when I was just 13 years old, and I can clearly remember how unprepared and nervous I was that day. There was a time when we had to adjust quickly because we were called to serve early, and there were definitely times when we would do things differently and we had to learn things as we go. The ministry kept growing. Soon enough, we became the kuyas and ates of YFL. We felt more comfortable serving and taking up different roles, so we would just ask someone who has been serving all this time instead of letting someone else serve. When I would assign people for music min, I just called those who have been serving already. I was too fixated on keeping a level of excellence to the point where our members would see the same group of people serving all the time.
Participating in my first WYC was the wake up call I've been waiting for. There was this part in the event where someone will pray over you. That time, when Ate Asha approached me and started to pray over me, I couldn't help but feel blessed and thankful. She started praying over me and I suddenly started crying. I kept wondering why, but I guess it was because I've been holding it all back. I've always imagined myself just giving up and breaking down because of everything that has been going on, and what I realized now was that it was time. It was the first time that I shared my problems with someone and it felt really good. Being able to finally say it out loud and adding the fact that Ate Asha gave me advice and comforted me in the best way I could think of was one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had, and I really felt God's love. I'm really glad it changed my perspective about how I should live my life, and right now I wouldn't say I've completely changed because everything takes time. But what I do know that is that I will continue to try and try again to rise above through Him.
YFL really is like a family. I'm thankful for events like our unit and servants' households, or Nehemiah Leadership Weekend, where, despite them passing on the roles to us, the kuyas and ates never made me feel like I was a failed servant or that I had to carry these tasks all on my own. And it's also because of them that I am reminded of our purpose as servants. That we aren't leaders for our members to subordinate themselves to our plan, but that we are God's instruments to fulfill His plan for us and our members to make Him known to all youth. With that purpose now permanently imprinted in my heart and mind, I can truly say that serving the Lord is more meaningful and fulfilling. I'm aware that I still have much to learn and practice, and I still catch myself stressing over difficulties. But knowing that this is all going according to His plan, I'm able to serve wholeheartedly and readily step out of my comfort zone to fulfill our mission as YFL.
Looking back, we were able to learn so much early on because we were called at such a young age. From playing guitar for the music men in worships to sharing or speaking up front, I was able to learn and grow so much because of what I was called to do here in the community. And more importantly, I was able to experience and grow in His love through this gift of service. During the Praise Fest activity in this year's WYC, we were asked to envision how our areas will look like in the next 5 years. It made me realize how much time we have left to serve here in YFL, and how our younger members will have to start serving soon. And if we truly want YFL to continue to be a venue of His love, if we want to continue to live out His mission for us to make all youth know Him, we have to ensure that there will be people who can serve in the future. With that in mind, I started to find members to train and to mentor, along with other servants. I've been trying to guide those in the music min, giving them small tips and things I wish I knew when I started serving. With not much time left, we're trying to do all we can to make sure that they can continue to serve when we leave YFL. We started assigning younger people to take on different roles, placing our trust in them and training them at the same time. We started to see more young people try new things and experience what it's like to share His love in our events this year. As more and more youth start to serve in recent events and activities, like the youth conference, our weekly LBS hubs, and especially the Likeness Youth Camp, we got to see a young service team do a lot of things for the first time. In that event, there were probably a few of us who were serving in our last camp, and I was thinking whether or not we were ready to move on. In the camp, I've gotten to see how much our young members are able to grow from their service in the recent events. They've shown me that they're ready to take on more responsibility, and that I was ready to move on. That was when I realized that the future of YFL really is in good hands after all.
Being welcomed into a community like YFL,
Being called to serve in YFL,
Being a part of YFL for 10 years has been such a blessing, and I'm truly grateful for the memories.
experiences,
and lessons gained from being in this community,
I'm thankful for the things that He has put me through to make me who I am today.
I'm thankful for the opportunities He has given me to get to know Him more.
I'm thankful for the people He has placed in my life as the instruments of His love for me, but I shouldn't keep these blessings to myself.
Instead, I should let others experience what I have experienced to grow closer to Him.
Through this gift of service and community.